Hello, hello. We got no more hello jokes, I think. We did it for 29 episodes.
It sounded like you were saying it in a cave, so it was giving an echo. Hello, hello.
So you added one more.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe we keep on the theme and bring in hellos from all over the world, but that's a lot of work.
Well, here's the thing. I actually, when I was looking at hello, it seems that this combination of letters has something significant when it comes to greeting. So notice hello, aloha, hola, hola, whatever, ahlan. When you're saying it in Arabic, there's something about
All
this.
coming from the same.
Yeah, something about this combination of letters that seems to be connected with greetings or something. I'm not.
I saw something, a documentary talking about how mama is a thing like that. It's like some sounds that a bunch of kids can make really easily, but not other sounds.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Well,
everyone landed on mama.
yeah. That's something that comes out from when the babies are babbling, and so. But there is something
And
else.
the second most sound is baba.
Actually, I think it's the other way around, or maybe yeah. Something like that. Something like that. Yeah, I remember seeing this.
So, by the way, I got a meeting in a couple of days with everyone who's going to be involved in the August 22nd Apostasy Day. So, EXMNA and whoever else. I don't know who's going to be there exactly, but
yeah, that's actually a very important date to observe, because in that case, so many people focus their efforts on drawing the attention to this very important topic, because when it comes to the rest of the year, when there's this flow of other events, it's not very easy to pay attention to something that's actually really an issue that exceeds just one particular location. It's something that affects people everywhere. So it's a really important date.
it should be all year round. But you got to pick a day, I think.
Right. Yeah. I
That
mean,
makes sense.
when you have so many other things that people are occupied in, like in trying to commemorate anything, if you want to actually draw attention to the importance of that day, you're going to, or to the importance of the topic, you're going to be picking a day where efforts are concentrated and focused
Well, and
on.
they did pick a day that was broader than just Islam stuff. I don't remember what it is. August 22nd has some significance, UN related significance. Something, it's not, again, not specifically about Islam.
Yeah. No, I don't remember
And we
exactly
just
what.
adopted it,
Yeah.
co-opted it, stealing it.
Yeah, there are also, well, there are the ex-Muslims Day, the Atheist Day. There are certain other days that if you
The
want to
Hijab Day, that's important too.
yeah,
There's Refugee Day, that's
yeah,
fucking important.
yeah, there's a whole.
And there's some people that intersect for all of them. They need every one of those things.
Yeah, the thing about this though is that once you have so many of these, it becomes a kind of a proliferation of things that overlap. And if you're actually going to be putting so much effort into one or more, it becomes a whole thing that you're either dedicating yourself to commemorating all these days, or you focus on a more broader approach, and then on certain specific days, a limited number of days, you divert the attention to these ideas.
Yeah, I don't know. My organization in particular is focusing on one thing. And I know lots of organizations are doing like 8 things, so they all work for them.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get started. So I'm going to put something on the screen. Here's the first one. I feel like an idiot for not leaving Islam earlier than I was 20. I was 32. So maybe I can speak to this a little bit. You were before you left before you were 20, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to speak to this anyway.
Well,
let's read this a little bit. So,
yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I envy people who already started questioning Islam around younger than 20. I'm currently 27 and left Islam in my early 20s. The reason why I'm making this post is because my childhood and adolescence was wasted on religion. I missed out on so many things in life by blindly believing in Allah. I used to go along with my family just to please them. When I stopped praying while living with them, my family used to give me a hard time for not praying enough, and that affected my mental health so much. My family used to make me believe that my invisible disabilities and mental illness will go away when I pray. I feel so stupid for giving in to what they used to tell me at a younger age. I wish I had an inquisitive mind at a younger age. I don't think I dealt with these things.
I do identify with the issue of prayers, though, when it comes to the surroundings, and you have to keep up appearances if you don't want to explicitly say that you have left the religion, and you have to accommodate so many different people because of this. So that aspect I definitely identify with, and I know what it means, but I don't think necessarily feeling that this person should have left the religion before is necessarily missing out on a lot, because eventually what happened is there was a process that culminated in leaving the religion, and most likely the process could not have matured into that conclusion beforehand. So probably it's not as easy as it might sound to say, well, I should have left the religion before that. Well, within the post itself, the poster is explaining that there were circumstances that made it hard. So probably they were already thinking about that. And in a way, the process, which usually takes a lot of time, had started at that moment, maybe younger than 20, as they are pointing out. And 27 is not old. I mean, I've seen people who are well older than 20, 30, and then start doubting religion. And what I wanted to point out about what happens then is that when you leave the religion so early, there are certain things that become so commonplace that the impetus that you have for maybe examining things doesn't become as strong. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing, because if you already have admitted to yourself that yes, this doesn't make sense, I'm going to be leaving the religion, that maybe gives you a less stable footing when it comes to re-examining stuff. Because if you're doing this at a much older age, you're probably going to be re-examining things much more deeply, much more probingly, in a way that really would put you.
I think you're saying, and I've said this kind of thing in a different context, that finding out about the lie later in your life means that you were more your critical capacity was higher, so you're able to deal with the lie and the aftermath of it.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing in a different context, which is, so when you and I were young, there wasn't internet. We didn't know shit about the world. We were given a cozy picture of the world anyway. And that's the lie we believed until decades later. And then even when the internet came, it still wasn't enough. But, we started to see things. Now, here's the point. If we were, because this is what teenagers are dealing with now. If we came online to Earth of like 10 years old and had the internet, we immediately see everything that we know now.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I would deal with that. I think it would have been much harder. I would have been depressed about the world. I don't feel that way now, but I built a lot of knowledge that lets me deal with it.
Yeah. Let me give you a glimpse on my end of things, because for me, it was the ethical and philosophical aspects of what's said in the Quran in particular that got to me, and some glaring contradictions with science. But for the longest time, I really had a difficult time um, considering Muhammad as a liar or a fraud or whatever it is you might consider him as, not someone who is receiving a message from God. So that actually prolonged the process for me for a very long time because I did not have access to a lot of the knowledge that is available right now. You can now just Google a certain aspect of the religion, whether it's about the life of Muhammad or any other aspect, and you would get a ton of things. Not only that, the primary resource that's about that, but also things that go much deeper with opinions, with various sides, with retorts to those claims. And so there's a lot that I had to build by myself. And then when I actually discovered all that additional knowledge that wasn't readily available, that completely opened up a new domain, which solidified the position and made it much more mature. But like you said, right now, the people who are leaving the religion are probably going through a process that's much more maybe sped up, or I don't want to say more superficial, because it's actually provided with a lot of information compared to what we had, but on maybe on the emotional and psychological levels, it's not as um, protracted. It's dealing with really important psychological and emotional aspects, but the frame of time that's involved maybe is different.
All right, so I was able to make a reply for that. Um, how did you get over the fear of eternal damnation and hell? I mean, there's enough information already in the title for us to reply, but let's see if there's anything that is more specific.
Well, maybe we can look with a little bit more detail about where this person is coming from. Is this an ex-Muslim or so? Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if I should tell them, right? I wish there was a faster way. I'm currently still Muslim, but I'm in that phase of questioning it very, very bad. I don't know. There's a post on this on my profile. But anyways, my biggest problem is this fear of hell that feels built into me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even allow myself to believe maybe my religion is wrong because I feel like I will guarantee myself eternal damnation. It's scary and lonely because I have no one to talk to. It's been keeping me awake. Maybe the first thing to say is, well, you can talk to us.
Yeah. Right now, it's not like people are living like hermits. If you can see that there is a huge number of people that are in the same boat in one way or another, at different stages of leaving religion. And so some people are considering the fear of hell as something that's very crucial in their constitution. Some people have already overcome that and have moved on to other things. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking um, at something like a continuous threat that would basically guarantee you eternal damnation, as the poster said, then it's like you're gambling with your life. You're making the biggest gamble that you could ever make, and its consequences are so huge. But if you just want to rationalize this, and this is again, this is an issue that has to do with the ethics. Now, we could say that this God might not necessarily be an ethical God that would take into consideration what we actually consider as morals and ethics, and take the intentions of a person who says, I tried, but I couldn't find the path to belief, and so I had to leave the religion. That kind of God supposedly should not take someone to hell, because that person honestly tried and they weren't able to get there. On the other hand, if that if you look at whatever action that you're doing on this earth, let's assume the worst kind of thing. Someone like Hitler massacring millions of people. Does that require, or does that have commensurate with it a punishment that goes all the way to eternity? I wouldn't say so. It's a horrible crime, but if you just want to add up the value of the crime and make it comparable to the punishment, then probably multiply the number of lives with a certain number of years. But eternal damnation, that I don't think that there's anything that you can do on this earth, whether good or bad, that requires either eternal punishment or eternal bliss. There's no such thing.
Well, let's get into other aspects of this, though. So, consider what's causing here. Consider what is causing your fear of hell. I break it down to three things. I put psychology at the bottom. Triggers. You hear that and you get a panic attack. And you need to retrain your mind. I'll talk about that a little bit. At the front, I talk about epistemology. You don't know how to refute Islam. And in the middle, physics. Afterlife is not possible. It breaks what we know about physics. Like, and the way I say it in here is, what's operating the soul? Everything needs an energy source. Every engine or thing, everything in the human body needs an energy source. There's a mitochondria in every cell. Okay, you cannot create or destroy energy. You can convert it to mass and back from mass to energy, but we can't create it, can't destroy it. So the soul breaks that whole concept. It is impossible.
And notice that the soul is actually just a leftover of a previous worldview, so that people who actually still believe in that in the permanence of the soul beyond the death are just, even if they know about what we have known about the scientific aspects of the world and life, they're actually completely disregarding this and still clinging to a completely antiquated point of view that does not actually sit together within the same worldview as what we already know about the world.
Right. We should ask questions like, what is the energy source of that soul? And for everyone that's ever promoted the idea of a soul concept, they do not ask these questions. They do not consider what is the energy source of the soul. They don't think about physics. Like you just said, that concept predates physics, like predates any of our ideas, good ideas at least, about physics, like about the conservation of energy, or that energy is needed for anything.
Not to mention the fact that the functions that were attributed to the soul, whether they have to do with the life of the organism or the psyche, the presence of the psyche in the living organism, especially humans, those functions have been relegated to other things that can be understood from a biological and physical point of view.
Almost everything is claimed by the soul is actually just the mind. Is that what you mean?
So the soul itself, as a functional entity, has been completely deconstructed, and its functions have been given away to very different aspects. So the soul is not some kind of a substance that is indivisible and that exists on its own anymore. some kind of a mysterious thing that resides in the living thing and then departs when the living thing dies. That's not how we understood. That's not how we understand life today.
And then I tell people that we talked a lot about this in the on this live stream, and I give them the 7 links to the 7 episodes on how to de-indoctrinate. And then I tell them I'm happy to answer questions here further or on the live stream, either by calling in or chatting. And that's it. And then the link to the timestamp.
7 links. That sounds like a magical number. 7 heavens and 7 seals.
That was not intentional. That was not intentional.
The 7 secrets.
All right, let's go to the next one. Ex-Sunni Muslims, now that we're unbiased, that's weird. Is it just me, or does it feel like Shias are actually fundamentally right? I have anything to say about this, but I wonder.
Well, and let's see in what sense. So they're talking about Muawiyah did some shit. He revoked the surah system. Well, that's a little bit contentious. And the shura system, and turn it into a monarchy. Well, yeah, okay. Supposedly the Shia were also assuming a kind of a monarchy that was taking the descendants of Muhammad to be the only ruling dynasty, which was supposed to be coming from Quraysh. So, okay, so this is talking about the lineage. Muhammad explicitly said not to do that. It was practically his sole command for the post for the Rashidun era. I don't know if that's explicitly the only thing that he said, because right after he died, both Shia and Sunni came up with alleged hadiths that give the authority to whoever is going to be coming next, whether it's Abu Bakr or someone from the house of Muhammad directly, which supposedly Ali was the best candidate. But at the same time, when you're thinking about what happened next, whether it's in the case of the Shia or the Sunnis, it was all infighting for who's going to be getting the authority, because this came with the power came with a lot of money, especially at that time when they were in that period of expansion and so on. So you can come up with verses in the Quran like ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم. Muhammad is not the father of any of your men. So it's a kind of a, maybe can be interpreted as a way of saying that you cannot have a dynasty that that comes from Muhammad directly, which would say then that you cannot have Hassan and Hussein as the rulers. So I don't know. You can say things both ways. I'm an ex-Sunni, so I do see the point of view that this person is saying about the legitimacy of the Shiites in how they are promoting the lineage of Muhammad through Ali, but at the same time, also from a purely objective perspective that has nothing to do with siding with these or these. You can also say things in favor of what the Sunnis did. So
you can also say things in favor of the version of Islam I said last week, right? Which was Allah's real, Muhammad's real, the message he gave us is real.
Oh,
people changed it afterwards, and everything is suspect.
Yeah. But here we're actually looking at the concrete history that really happened as far as we know, because by the way, we don't really have good evidence, historical evidence about that initial period that happened right after Muhammad died. So the reign of Abu Bakr and then Omar and Uthman, they are not documented in a way that we think is reliable.
They were hiding that shit.
Yeah,
They were
from
trying
a
to get all
historical.
sorts of things done and slip it under the rug of history.
Yeah, but for example, Muawiyah is very well documented. We know that he minted money, that he ruled from Syria. There's a lot of things that can be said about Muawiyah, and they even say that Muawiyah wasn't even the Muawiyah that we think about, that he was a kind of a Christian king. He wasn't even a Muslim. Regardless of these details, the history itself, as we think we know it through the lens of what came down to us, is a history of infighting. So they were infighting right from the beginning. They had major civil wars where they killed each other at the very beginning in order to.
When you say beginning, you mean during Muhammad's life?
No, after. Right after. So they had civil wars where the faction that eventually became the Shiites were fighting with.
All right. So should we say anything to him? And if so, what?
I don't know. I mean, it's great that an ex-Sunni is admitting or giving some nod to some former bias they might have had against the Shiites. But with all honesty, it's just, from my perspective, it's a fight over power. So I cannot say that this side or this side has legitimacy over the other.
Well, what does it even mean to be fundamentally right? Fundamentally right. Wouldn't that mean God is real, Muhammad is real? And
yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. So when you're saying fundamentally right, it means that this seems to give the Shiite position some kind of a primacy over not only Sunni Islam, but also in principle, something that exceeds that fight between the two.
All right. I guess we can say something. We talked for
maybe
6 minutes.
Possibly.
I guess that's enough. Maybe they'll come over.
Yeah, a follow-up would be interesting to see what they might be saying as well, if that's something to look at later on.
Depressive feeling as an ex-Muslim. Does anyone know how to get rid of this depressing feeling as a young ex-Muslim, knowing you can't escape your family or country and openly be an ex-Muslim even after you're 18? I always thought that I could book a flight the second I was 18 and leave, but apparently it's haram for women to travel without a mahram. So generally, is there a solution to this shit feeling?
Well, that's
I don't know what to say to people in this scenario, man.
Yeah, it's actually not an easy thing to deal with, especially that. So sometimes if you're able to know a little bit more specific details, like where this person is living, sometimes they can have connections with other people in that same place where they're living. And that could at least alleviate some of the burden of that depressive feeling that she's describing. But even just that impediment that was mentioned, that you cannot travel without a mahram. Yeah, you can't. But very often, if you're resourceful enough, you're probably able to come up with ways to circumvent that. You might even have the ability to have a mahram travel with you, and once you're outside, if that's what you're intending, you can just leave that person. Or you could have that mahram be in on this with you and then help you travel if that's the issue. So there are several things. I can imagine that when you're in this kind of situation, it appears like there is no way out. Um, but given the fact that this is now part of the reality, people can get a little bit resourceful, try to see where others in this same place are, what they're actually doing, and what kind of thing uh, uh, they usually do in order to deal with this situation. The fact is, um, nobody is alone anymore in this. The very fact that this person was able to make a post that reached us, people who have nothing to do with this, we don't even know where this person is, means that it also reached other people as well. And like we just saw, there are some commenters that are maybe saying a few things. So probably it's not as hopeless as it might seem.
Yeah, I mean, that part of it is they had an idea of what it would take to get out, and it was a really low bar, which was unrealistic to begin with, a bad expectation. Yeah. And then that got pulled from under them, a rug got pulled from under them. But that's just in the moment of you having to switch from, oh, I'm getting out at 18 to a different story. Like, first of all, you don't even know when yet.
Yeah, and take into account the following. When you're a teenager, you have a certain conception of what things you can do and what things you cannot do. And the very act of maturing is basically tweaking and polishing that point of view and putting it against the experience of life so that you would actually know what's possible and what's not possible. And when you know what's not possible, then you can actually start building on the available possibilities to utilize them. So just the fact that the original point of view didn't, or the original plan didn't work as expected, doesn't mean that nothing's going to work and that's it.
So I'm going to mention here, part of your current depression is the switch you just recently made, from expecting to leave at 18 kind of easily to something else, well, unknown so far yet.
Yeah, I mean, if leaving is the plan, then probably with meticulous planning, it's something that's doable, and many people have done something of the sort.
But I wish there was more ways to learn how to get out. I've been trying to help with something like that, and I don't see a lot of effort being made to show people how to get out. For one thing, every country is different, isn't it?
Yeah, every country
and every place you're going to is different.
Yeah, so it's not easy to just give a kind of a blanket advice that would be
right.
So it's very specific, and
it's hard to even give advice.
Yeah,
like a cookie cutter advice, you kind of can't.
Add to that sometimes if the advice is well intended but bad advice, it might actually backfire.
Say that one more time.
If there's good intentions behind that advice and advice turns out to be bad, misinformed, then it might backfire. It's not necessarily not any advice is a good advice.
Yeah. I wonder if you want to talk about this. It's related to it's asking men, us, and did our view of women change after leaving Islam? I don't think mine did.
Mine didn't as well. I mean, you have certain regulations that were in place. But these regulations, because they're societal, they're going to be there no matter what. You might be able to deform them a little bit based on your current or newly acquired point of view, but that doesn't mean you're actually able to completely change things just because you have changed your point of view, especially if the society around you is still the same. But we can probably look a little bit about what kind of details this person is saying. Maybe they have specific things that they're asking.
But let's say why I believe the reason mine didn't change is, well, I had a very liberal mother. She's like a feminist, although I don't even think she's as feminist as she should have been. She was raised by a father that told his daughters, "You all have a penis," which is to say that you're just the same as men.
Okay.
And then so like I didn't see any differences. I have a sister. There was some misogyny, but I think it was really from the parents, not from the kids. Like telling the daughter to clean the house and not telling the boys to clean the house, stuff like that. Right. Also, the boys having the freedom to go out and about outside the house without any questions, and my sister not getting that at all.
Right. No, that's yeah. I could probably say something somewhat similar, although in terms of a lot of things that are related to equality within the household, there was certain preferences, but at the same time there was a lot of equality that was being promoted, and I should say it was somewhat anomalous compared to what I've seen elsewhere. I'm not saying that my family was especially progressive or open-minded, but it did feel somewhat different from many of the people I saw around me. But let's actually take a look at what this person is saying. Probably they have something that overlaps with what we said, but maybe something else as well.
Well, like here, did you really believe back then that what is it? If you see a woman, you get provoked. See a woman in shorts, provoked or tempted. I never had that. I wasn't aware of that thing going on in the Muslim world. Of the reason women are covered is so that men don't get excited. I wasn't aware of that.
Well, there's actually another hypothesis that has something to do with the history of early Islam for why this happened in the first place. We could elaborate on that if you want, but that's not quite how it might be understood. Now, let's take the prevailing theory then, that this is actually the main reason, which probably is what kept the practice going for years. Now, sexuality is very much regulated in a Muslim society, and so if this person is still in a Muslim society, even if they are able to see the futility or the wrongness of these ideas, they're still going to be inundated with rules that would have him enforce some of that, even if he doesn't believe in it. If he's not living in a Muslim society, then it's going to definitely be a laboratory for him to start experimenting. Does he actually see that this aspect was actually related specifically and directly to Islam, or is it something that that has some kind of a cultural indoctrination that went into his psyche, and that's very hard to leave even after leaving the religion? That's something.
So when you were still a Muslim, you were aware of this concept of the reason women are being covered is to not tempt men.
Yeah.
So what did you think of that? And were you tempted?
Not quite. I mean, I didn't feel that there was much of a difference on my end. Let's put it this way. Uh, but and that's at the fact that I spent well, right now it's actually half of my more than half of my life was spent in a Muslim majority society. Uh, the societal aspects of this kind of separation between the sexes and why the separation happens and how it happens, there's no way around it if you're in that society. If you're going to believe something else, then yeah, you might act on it, but you're going to still be acting in a kind of a clandestine way that's under the radar. It's not like now I think differently, I'm going to be acting differently. That's not how it works if you have a society around you that doesn't support that. You would be societally punished for acting differently. That's why
This is weirdly worded. Are you tempted, women in shorts? If I see good looking legs, yeah, I might get horny. Is that what they mean by tempted? But here's the point. Can men control themselves? The answer is yes.
Okay, so let's actually look at some of what this means in practice. In certain European countries where there were Muslims who went there from growing up in a Muslim society, you can actually see people getting raped, women getting raped because they are not covered. It's like when you're not covered, it's like you're inviting it from their perspective that you have that kind of incentive. Now, what protects covered women, uncovered women in a Muslim society? It's the honor of the family. It's the fact that there is some people who might force the woman to get covered, or if you try to attack that woman, then there's going to be trouble. But in the West, when these people with that mentality go to the West, they view the women in the West not as women in the same sense, but they are foreign women. That is to say, there is some kind of a mentality, at least for some of them. I'm not saying that everybody thinks that way, that it's fair game to go and molest them or rape them or do whatever.
All right, let's send this one. Let's see what's left. There's not much left. Oh, here's some physics. What happened was somebody wanted, help leaving Islam. I replied, and at one part I said, or what did they say? Let me find it. Here. Just like we used to think gravity was a force organized in gravitational fields, but now we know gravity is actually the curve of space-time. What they're trying to say is, how can we rely on science when science keeps changing? And I mentioned something about physics. I don't even think I made a good point here. All I said was, well, we found out that theory is also not the end, is all I'm saying here. And then a physicist replies, as a physicist, let me tell you, your assertion that general relativity is wrong isn't taken as a whole. I think what he's saying is you can't say the whole thing is wrong. I don't know. I personally don't believe in C, continuum. I don't even know what that is. I am a Z to the fourth power. I don't know what that is. Individual causal set theory and another theory I have been doing some work on. Do you know what point he's trying to make here?
Not really. But yeah, I'm not sure what's being.
I think he's saying, you know how if somebody said, you did this too, by the way, when I said Newton's theory is refuted by Einstein's theory, you wanted to give a proviso and say, it's not refuted the way a lot of people think what refuted means. It's like dead or whatever. And I think that's what he's saying here.
Well, I don't have anything in particular to say about this particular comment, but regarding the connection between Einstein's theory and Newton's, what's actually happening is general relativity is a wider frame of work than Newton's, in the sense that it's more general, and you can actually derive Newton's theory as a limiting case to Einstein's. Uh, that does involve a certain shift in the way that you're going to be interpreting what gravity is, talking about it from the effect of how curvature of space-time is going to be causing matter and energy to act, to talking about forces and masses and so on. So that does involve a kind of a change in the paradigm, but that's not saying that the theory as a whole is now superseded or that it doesn't work. The problem with all this point of view is that this is a kind of a postmodernist thing that tells you that anything like, for example, physics is a kind of a narrative. It's not an actual piece of objective knowledge about the world. And the problem with this is that it's basically coming out of a misunderstanding or a lack of understanding of what science is actually doing and how these different theories are related to one another. It's not like when Einstein came, completely abolished Newton. No, you can actually do most of the things that you can do on Earth, you can do without any reference to general relativity. When you start
most, isn't it more like probably 99%?
Well, it depends. If you're including GPS system, then you have to use general relativity. If you don't, you're going to start.
That sounds like it's within the 1%.
Well, yeah, depending on who's.
I guess it depends how much we use GPS in the future.
Yeah, if you rely on GPS a lot, that's probably more than 1%.
I mean, there are a lot of machines we use, like the resonant imaging. What's it called? Resonance imaging. I forget the name, but that uses some of Einstein's work that you couldn't do with Newton's work.
Well, I mean, there are certain things that require a lot of. So general relativity. I think if you just want to focus on general relativity compared to Newton's laws, you're not really going to see much need for it in most of the things that are experienced on Earth, even within the solar system, unless you get to really close to the sun, for example. Then you start needing some corrections, but they're very, very tiny corrections. The mass of the sun isn't really that big compared to other celestial objects, and so for all intents and purposes, Newton's theory is a very good approximation. You can go to the moon and back without an engineering piece that ever invokes general relativity. You can do that even to Mars and back without including.
Mars too?
Yeah, it's not something that that.
But you can't do it with following Mercury's orbit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The only significant gravitational change that might require a little bit, it's even very small, a little bit of general relativity is going to be when you're very close to the sun. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, but if you did try to hit Mercury with a spaceship with Newton's laws, you'd miss it, right? But maybe not by much.
No, not at the scales of launching from Earth.
You wouldn't miss it?
No, you wouldn't miss it.
Oh, wow.
You would require a lot of time.
Oh,
so what happens is the precession of the orbit as Mercury goes through many orbits, you can actually start seeing the effect. Okay. It's like when you're defining, I don't know, the 24-hour day in terms of seconds and comparing that to the actual rotation of the Earth. It's not going to be exactly that. So you're going to be adding some.
Yeah, that's why we have the leap year.
No, I'm talking about
every 4 years.
I'm talking about the level of seconds. You would have to change the number of seconds in order to account for that. But yeah, it's going to be for the scale that you're working with. For the scale you're working with, it's going to be more than sufficient to do just
That's too much to reply, so I'm going to leave this one naked.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. Fear of death.
Well, we had a whole episode dedicated to that before.
Yeah. I feel like using fear of punishment or reward after death is just a OP, like overpowering strategy to get the mass in control and obey your every command. Why would or did a so-called God need our punishment reward to be applied after death? Also, why pander to a man's desire by giving them whatever they want in heaven? Change the subjects there. Imagine for eternity just pandering to what humans ask for as a all-powerful being. That's embarrassing. Also, eternity eventually would become boring if there's a finite things that will please us.
Yeah. So that
making fun of the concept of fear of death.
Yeah, I think that person is just summarizing a few of the many contradictions that naturally appear when you're talking about the concept of eternity in principle, but also punishment or reward after death. There are so many wrong things in that picture that it should crumble under its own weight. What's actually amazing is that people don't see it that way. Believers actually defend the point of view and consider it to be a very ethical point of view. It's really appalling that this is the case, but that's what they do. Yeah, it persists because of its utility, not because it's a self-consistent, logically self-consistent idea.
So here I'm saying it's the same kind of logic that many parents use to discourage disobedience in their kids. They threaten punishment, and at least in America, there's a way that they do it where they say something like hit the kid once so you don't have to hit him again later. And the idea is you've instilled a credible threat of punishment in the future.
Yeah, you use the punishment as a kind of a deterrent and a way to modify behavior in a way that doesn't require you to actually use the punishment beyond that. And to some extent, it's not that it doesn't work in principle. If you punish with or threaten with punishment, then yes, it is possible to modify certain behaviors. But what I keep always saying is that if you're going to be, say, stealing or committing a murder or whatever it is, if you have enough motivation, no matter what kind of threat you have, if your motivation is strong enough, you will do it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at a society made up of believers. Supposedly, these believers believe in that eternal punishment, and yet they go and do that, do whatever it is that
there seems to be loopholes.
Yeah, there are definitely loopholes. They can ask for forgiveness, and somehow you're able to change the mind of God from taking you to eternal damnation, and then all of a sudden it's clean slates.
But then, there's another loophole. Allah can just follow his whim.
Yeah, that's. Well, there are interesting aspects to that. Sometimes you would there are hadiths, for example, that would say that on the day of judgment, Allah is going to take the sins of Muslims and dump them on Christians and Jews, so that basically you can outsource those sins and get rid of them to people who are already damned. So this kind of thing not only tells you that God is whimsical, if the burden of doing something is on the person, and the person is the one that's being judged, how it is that you can actually swap or exchange or buy your way into heaven and still call that God just and fair.
By ignoring all logic.
Yeah.
That's how.
But that whim, like you said, is actually something very fundamental in the view of Islam, because eventually, if you say that I did all these good deeds, right now I'm going to deserve heaven. Well, no, you're going to deserve heaven only if Allah says that you deserve it.
Which breaks the concept of deserve.
Exactly. So only the people he wants to go to hell go to hell. The people he wants to go to heaven will go to heaven, regardless of what you do.
I got a new one here, a new post I wrote. There's only one possible miracle, and I made a typo. If Islam has 0 imperfections, every other supposed miracle is a fucking lie, propaganda. They're designed to get you to ignore the flaws you see in Islam. The logic is, oh, look at this amazing thing that only God could have done. The only amazing thing that only God could have done is making a religion that has 0 imperfections. And of course, that didn't happen. There's no religion that doesn't have imperfections.
Well, a Muslim can come to you and say, well, no, you're wrong. There are no imperfections in Islam. You're just delusional, or you're misunderstanding.
And I'll say jinn.
Well, they're going to defend that, or they're going to
Great. And now we're talking about scientific thinking, and now they're learning some shit.
Yeah. And some of them might come to you and disavow it and say, no, it's all metaphor.
All metaphor.
So yeah, that's.
But then now you get into why I left Islam. If it's all metaphor, look, Islam and any religion, at least one aspect of it, and you can't get rid of this, is a moral guide. But if Islam tells you to believe in nonsense, and then that leads you to an exorcist instead of a hospital, that's where it all breaks down for me. It is not a moral guide; it's an immoral guide.
Yeah.
Islam, the immoral guide. I should write that post like that. It's an immoral guide.
I can see people lawyering themselves out of this by changing some of. This is not something that I'm making up, because I have been in discussions online with people.
Everything that can be done to save Islam, a Muslim has done it.
Yeah, and those who actually make this kind of move, if they are judged by the rest of Muslims, they would be considered non-Muslims themselves, because they're now departing from.
Why I say every Muslim is an apostate by some other Muslim's version of Islam.
Yeah.
And that's why the apostasy law is so important, getting rid of it, because it's not just protecting ex-Muslims, it's protecting Muslims from other Muslims who see them as apostates.
Yeah. The problem with this is that usually the apostasy law is in the hand of the ruling faction, which is typically kind of a Muslim sect. This means that this ruling faction is the one that's going to consider apostasy as apostasy from their own, or against their own rule, as a threat to their rule.
All right, so we crossed an hour. Do you want to get out and go?
Yeah. So,
okay, let's end it here, everyone. We got to go. It's July 4th. It's a holiday for us. Not, I mean, what, like 5% of the world?
Yeah, maybe less than that, I would say, probably.
I think it's 5%. 300 million out of, oh, I can't do math now.
Yeah.
It's more than 5%, I think. 300 million out of 8 billion.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you do math that easily?
No, not really.
You know, I remember physicists are not great at math in general. Like we're not.
we can do good order of magnitude estimates, but
Yeah.
actual math.
You know what's weird is, so in college, I think I loved physics more than math, right? But I also saw math as more difficult. But for whatever reason, I got straight A's in math in college, and I did not get straight A's in physics. I don't get that. I don't know if that means the math classes were like easier. I don't know. I found math to be more difficult because a lot of times you're just talking about such abstract things with nothing to connect it to.
Well, it depends on what kind of math.
Okay, let's say imaginary numbers. Now, here's the thing. I do get that they'll invent some new math that has no connection to anything, and then later a physicist finds a way to use it where it's relevant in physics, but that's after the fact. But that's the part that I see that is difficult. Some abstract thing. Where does it connect to anything? Why does this matter? Why are you guys making this shit?
Well, I claim that there is no such thing as a math that's disconnected from reality, no matter what it is.
Oh, meaning everything they're coming up with has a place somewhere.
Has some kind of connection. It might be, well, it's a whole different topic that we might talk about. But yeah,
it has relevance to somewhere outside of just pure math.
Yeah.
Huh. Everything.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff. So, by the way, where is it? Where is imaginary numbers relevant?
Quantum mechanics. You can't do if you want to do quantum mechanics, you cannot do quantum mechanics with imaginary numbers.
Without imaginary numbers,
you cannot do it.
Yeah. Okay. Is that something you learned? Because I took a quantum mechanics class. Maybe I forgot that part. Is that something you learned in your first class?
It depends. If you're doing this at the introductory level, they might gloss over it because you're not going to be doing it in a mathematical way. But if you do it in a proper mathematical way, you're going to introduce imaginary numbers. Right?
And how long? What was the period of time from the time they invented imaginary numbers to the time they realized it's relevant in physics? Was it many decades?
Yeah, no, I would say centuries, but it's
centuries.
Yeah, but in the intervening time, imaginary numbers had a lot of applications.
So, man, we should really thank the mathematicians for being so stubborn in loving what they're doing, but there not being any relevance for centuries until someone realizes it's relevant.
Well, I would probably say that the distinction between mathematicians and physicists at that time is not really that clear. So when you're doing math, it's not clear that you're actually doing something separate from.
So we shouldn't be saying thank God all the time. We should be saying thank the mathematicians.
Yeah.
All right, Usama. I'll see you next week. All right.
See you next week.
Have fun. Take it easy. Bye-bye.